Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of SNG Weekly. This week, we're going to continue working on the Communion Buster. Remember, we made a new mold. We made a silicone mold. And you're going to see that get opened up, and we're going to pull a copy out of that mold in two-part resin for Allie. We're also going to see me do some ear molds of the original Spock ears that I sculpted for Star Trek The Motion Picture. We're going to be making new molds off the masters so we can make them out of silicone. I'm going to be working on a friend of mine's submarines. He had me build almost 4 years ago now for him. 3 submarines, a Nautilus, a Roby Shark, and a Dumas Akula, all which have been sitting here in storage completely finished for all that time because he's had a lot of things going on in his life, busy-wise, that never allowed him to get down here and get to them. So we're going to get those subs working again. I'm sure they'll be okay, but after they sit for 4 years, you don't know what you're going to find. So that's going to be an interesting adventure, and we're going to get those working. And you won't see all of that in this episode because next week we'll actually get them in the water, but you'll get to see how they work and what we're going to do with them. Also, we're going to show you a little bit of what's going on with Martian's Attacks SNG. You remember that? We are working on it. I want to thank Allie Reyes so much for contributing to it, not just as a backer, but also as a contributing artist, since she's doing the beautiful space artwork backgrounds for our CGI scenes that we have space. Thank you, Allie. You're the best. And we will not have a question and answer period this week because we've only got one question. And so you guys need to send us an email or send me a personal message on Facebook or on my blog. If you have a question you'd like to have answered about my career, about SNG, about Mary, about me, about the dogs, whatever it is, you can ask us and we'll be happy to continue on with our question and answer period of the show. So let's get on with the show. Oh, I just mixed up this gooey stuff. What do you call it? Vermin Industries. It's not marked on here. It says High Pro Blue Catalyst. Yes, well, we know that, and that's the stuff that basically is slow setting, not the fast stuff. This is V1065 RTV silicone from BermanIndustries.com. It's a very, very good silicone. I stopped using GI 1000 after I got this stuff because it's very, very stable. And as you know from the molds I made of the Enterprise out of it, for the big giant Enterprise, those molds are still flexible and beautiful and not tearing and not brittle, and that's almost 3 years. So I'm very happy with this silicone. It's got a very good has a lot of longevity to it. Some silicones, they're less money and you get what you pay for because they will be brittle after only a couple of years, and your molds won't be so flexible, they'll tear. This stuff stays good so far a really long time. What we're going to do is go over here with this and start the long process of laying this up. I'm doing it this way rather than make a case mold, and I've talked about case molds in the past. Case molds, basically you make the outer mother mold first by building clay up over the master, over the sculpture, and making your two-part stone mold, and then removing it and removing that clay from here, and tidying this all up, and then putting this 2 shells back. There's a hole on top, and you fill in. And the advantage to that is, of course, I would just close that up on this, fill it in, and walk away. But there are disadvantages to it too, and one of my least favorite is the trapping of air into the chin in a few areas. You can't get to anything. You can't agitate this stuff, so sometimes you get bubbles on the surface, and so I'm opting to do it the hard way. For the time that I save by doing a case mold, pouring it, it seems to equal itself out if you think about it. I mean, that same time is the time it'll take me to stand here for 20 minutes while this stuff gels, and I have to keep slopping it up, until it stays put, much like it looks right now. You can see it run. But the advantage, I think, overall, is that I won't have any problems with bubbles on the surface at all. I can get to every single part of the sculpture and make sure I've got the material into every nook and cranny. So this is going to take a while. I'm basically going to slop this all down like you're seeing, and then keep slopping it up till about 1:30. I'm putting this on about 1. I actually started mixing it about 10 minutes to 1, so I have about 20 minutes of real working time with it before it starts to gel. So we're going to do a real basic two-piece mold because you don't need anything fancy of our friend here. I'm going to kind of widen that out so I can get in there and take these pieces of clay I've cut up and kind of squeeze it down in there. It doesn't have to be pretty and you don't have to worry too much about undercuts or anything like that because the clay is soft, and even after we run this out of polyurethane, you've got a front and a back piece to be removed, so you don't have any problems with having undercuts or grabs because you're going to move this then peel off your silicone. Being careful not to damage the sculpture underneath by pressing on it too hard. I'm going to come up all the way up here. Hopefully that'll stay there long enough for me to come all the way around. There's really nothing to stick to because it's silicone, so it's kind of hard to do. But you get the idea. We're going to come all the way around like this. We're going to smooth this out. We're going to put some keys in this and lay some ultracal up on the very front. And what I'm trying to do is avoid, that should do it. And there we go. Gee, you think I've done this before? And that gives us our two-piece separation. Now I'm going to make this a little bit smoother and add some keys, and we'll come back and I'll show you. We're going to lay up the stone on this, and then that will sit for a while, and then we'll take this clay away and Vaseline the opposite side, and that'll give us our two-piece mother mold to support the silicone. So we got this the basic wall up for our mother mold for our silicone here, and I'm just going to kind of go around like this and get that and do this. And it's difficult to do because the silicone's very slippery, and you're probably going to have to do this in 2 coats. Basically get a splash coat on and wait for it to start to gel up or something, and then get the rest of it on. It's not like putting it on clay, as you can see. And that's that for now. But we're going to come back when this and show this side when it's completely finished. But basically all I'm going to do is keep adding more and more and more until it builds up nice and thick and smooth it. And that'll give us our mold. Mary says the camera's rolling. There's the first side. Ain't it pretty? I'll never forget the guy who, in a post someplace that I made once, saw the beginnings of the ultracal going onto a sculpture. That was a process of the mold. And what tipped me off that he wasn't reading, or that he didn't tune in before and see the sculpture, he thought that was a finished sculpture and actually insulted me and said his 9-year-old could do a better job than that. It's always best before you completely humiliate yourself in front of all your peers to make sure you know what you're talking about first. Just a rule of thumb I usually try to stick to. So that's why I say ain't it pretty, because it is. It was a nice, pretty mother mold, prettier than it had to be. What I'm doing now is I've taken away all the clay and everything on that side. These lumps of clay here, so later there's a cavity there to pry the mold apart with. And I've Vaselined up the seam, because Vaseline is a separator, a good separator for plaster, tooling stone, whatever it is you're using. And I'm doing a brush coat on here. And then I'm going to, you know, build up the second side of this 2-part mother mold. That's what I'm doing. This is really simple stuff, but it's also very time consuming. Don't let it fool you. It is labor intensive, which is why people like us, and I do mean like us, get the big bucks. You know, you're not going to get it done for a few $100s. So it is, you have to know what you're doing, and it's very labor intensive, of course. It comes from years and years of experience. So I'm going to just keep doing this until we're all coated up really nice, and then I'm going to take this. This is a rinse bucket here, which has been Vaselined up, and which allows me, it's full of water, to do things like save disposable brushes, wash my hands off or my gloves off, and all the sediment goes to the bottom and hardens up, and you just bang it out later on when it sets up. Rather than wash it down your sink, which I know some of you have done, including myself, and a month or so down the road ran into an interesting problem, because as much as you run the water and run this stuff down, it eventually accumulates in the sediment areas and blocks your pipes. So it needs a rinse bucket. A word from the wise. Okay, we'll come back to this later. What we have here is a mold. What a mold, too. This took all day. I mean, this took, God, 6 hours. We're just ending our day here for today. I'm a little punchy. But for those of you out there that think that plaster will work just as well as, you know, this expensive Ultracal 30, think again. Can you do that to plaster? You know? So, I mean, the stuff's really, really strong, and we have both sides now. See? And that supports the entire silicone. And the fact that the silicone is over the entire edge, once this is uprighted, is really great, because when we're pouring in the resin and we're slopping around, draining it out, it's not going to get on the outside of this and run down in between it. So it's really going to be a nice mold. I'm really pleased with it. So we will be back to open this mold up tomorrow.
Well, I'm all alone today here at the studio with Rosie, the Wonder Dog, and Mary's at home at the house, and I'm going to open this mold up, and I'm not finding the B tripod. I'm on the B camera, which is handheld, which I know you all love. So what I'm going to try to do is set it down over here.
Hey everybody!
So let's get this open. First of all, I'm going to need a hammer. Now as I do this, you're probably wondering, why am I trying to break the mold? I'm not. The shock causes the sides to separate. You can see this little thin crack happen along here, and then the theory is that when you work this in here very carefully, it will further separate it, as it appears to be doing already. So this is always a good sign that the mold isn't breaking. See? Can you see it opening? Can you see it opening? I can see it opening. Okay, I'm going to do this side now. Be very careful not to manhandle this too much, because it will, in fact, break without the reinforcement in it, which could either be you can either use fiber, sisal fiber. You can also use, what I use quite often these days is burlap. Trying always not to block the camera. Give this a nice slide. Go. There we go. There we go. That's that part off. And we got a nice little mother mold there. And it's holding up the same spot that it does always on this sculpture, the chin. So I'm going to do this, and that'll work. Okay, now we got that side. I'm going to move it over here. I have more room. Next up is to cut this down the back with the blade. One nice thin line. Now on the stone mold for the latex version, we had 2 lines. We had 2 seams. And on this one, we just have one. Infinitely preferable to the latter. So I'm going to cross the chin here to make this come off easier. And there goes the sculpture. But we have, in fact, a very nice mold with a few annoying bubbles in it, but that's par for the course. Always at the nose and at the mouth, very easily dealt with. The place I really don't like to get the bubbles the worst is around the eyes, and we have none there. So this is going to be quite a good mold. Very good mold, in fact, and very thin, very, very nice. Now, this goes back in here. Now, I'm sorry you can't zoom in and see all this, but we don't have Mary here today, but you can see that. It goes back in the mold rather well, and the seam just closes right up, but it takes a second to get this on. There it goes. There we go. Pop it, pop, pop. And we're ready to actually run one if we want. Now, Monday, we can make up Allie's casting from this, who gets the first one from the new mold.
And here we are with the very new bust out of the new mold in resin. And it's got a little bit of a pedestal on it here that I left the clay sculpture there, so it looks like it's sort of chipped out of stone. And this will be signed on the back by myself. And Mary and I are going to go see Whitley Strieber this Sunday, and he's going to sign this to Allie, and he's going to personalize it to her, which is really going to be cool. I think it really turned out really nice. It looks just like the latex ones, except it's 2-part resin. It's a lot heavier, so they're going to have to be careful when they ship this, but it really turned out very, very well. And look, there's no seam there anymore like we had before. I had to cover up. It's very, very clean. So I'm very, very pleased. These are the original masters, and that is to say that these are an early polyurethane material that was poured up back in 1978 off my original ear molds you've seen the picture of on my website and on my pictures on Facebook. And these are that old. These are from 1978. I stole these from Rick Stratton, who had them in his collection. I guess he took these home with him after the show was over. But these are in fact my original sculptures and overflows and everything else. And what these were used for was for making more molds. We would clay up the back here, up to the edge, and make this little area in here, and then wrap around this, fill up ultracal. Then after that hardened up, take off the wrap, pull out the clay, Vaseline up in here, and pour in more to get this part behind the ear, because we didn't have the use of silicone back then to make a non-seam ear. So these ear molds are actually made the way John Chambers made them for the original TV series. They were exactly the same. Even the sculpture was exactly the same, because Fred Phillips gave me a pair of ears in perfect condition from the show in foam rubber that John Chambers ran in foam, and he said copy those exactly. Something that other people that did the ears after me did not do, to put it mildly. So, but that meant there would be a seam there, and if you look at the original TV show, especially with the Blu-rays, you can see in close-ups, you can see the seam in the foam on Leonard. We don't have that problem anymore because we use the silicone molds. Now, so it can be one piece because it's flexible material. And you can see, because I've never shown this before, these are masters I made off of these. In other words, I made a mold off these, just like we did for Leonard, and ran them out of foam rubber. This is latex with foam inside, and cleaned up and got rid of all the seams the way they couldn't back then. So that gave me a master. And then from these I can make more molds. And every time I make a mold off one of these, it's an exact copy of the original sculpture I did back in 1978. So that's what I'm about to start to do, because we're going to start offering these ears in silicone. They'll last forever and they'll have that translucent look, and so we're moving into the 21st century. What I'm going to do is mix up some Ultracal and fill up these 2 cups. I'm hoping I'm not overdoing it here with the water, so I'm going to pour some off here. And basically all I have to do, and this is the same material we used back then, it's just about right. Let's stir that around, make up some nice Ultracal 30, which you know what that is. I've talked about it before. It's a very hard plaster. It's a tool stone. I'm going to add a little bit more. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that I'll be able to actually make a prosthetic ear from this you can wear, although I've thought about it, because unfortunately, Rick did not get the positive of Leonard's ears. But there is a way, which I figured out, that could be done to make this possible, which I'm going to try. I'm a little short on Ultracal, so we'll come back here in a minute with some more. So I got more in there, and there should be more than enough now. You can see the Ultracal in there. I need to brush these first so I don't have any bubbles on the surface. I'm just going to do this, like so. I thought it was. So what I'm doing is I'm coating these like so. And I'm just going to kind of do that. There's one ear mold. Now I can make slip rubber ears from these with a very fine edge on that you could wear. I could probably also just brush silicone in there and give it a pretty good edge that way. But I'm going to try to make a little inset for these out of stone that I can push in once I see the actual mold and what it looks like inside. This way you can see clearly there's no bubbles on the surface. I've got a nice thick coating. So then when I push this in like so and work that in there like so, then I have the molds, just like that. And those will harden up, we'll open them up, just like that. Thought I'd give you guys all a quick little peek at my Halloween costume. I'm really hoping that you've all got your Halloween costumes together. I'm sure you do. You're probably way ahead of me, right? So it always sneaks up on you. And this year I said, this isn't going to happen. So way back about, 4 or 5 months ago, Mary, I ordered these, the Gotham boots, which are really nice. You know, they're not real leather, but you know, they weren't that much money, and they're very comfortable, and they actually fit me really well. And I ordered them off the internet, and sometimes you know how that can go. You send them back because they don't fit right. Likewise, I decided, why make my own gauntlets since I'm going for the simple Batman costume, more of the comic book version. I saw these online and I got them, and you know what? They're really good. I don't really have the arms for them, so we may take them down a wee bit. But really, these are great. They really are. They go right to where they're supposed to go. So I was very pleased with these. These were not very expensive, and they really are quite good. Also, I believe off Amazon, maybe it was. Yes, it was. I got the utility belt, which is an ammo belt, which is what most of the Arkham Batmans and comic book type Batmans are wearing. And of course, I made this belt buckle all from scratch, which I'm very proud of. And it matches the bat on my chest. And this just Velcros on to this here. So it's very, very strong. and very clean, very nice, and it works quite well. I try it on for you, but Mary's decided, and I agree with her, that none of this should be put on for you to see and have a giggle at until Halloween. And of course, this is the cowl, and you know about the cowl. I remember how I made it and everything, and I've started lining it inside with foam. It fits really, really well. And we've got a collar that I did a temporary collar, but a collar that fits up underneath this, that's out of the same material that the cape is made out of, which is over here. And it works really good, as you could see from the picture. It allows this to turn freely. I can move my head. I don't have to do the Michael Keaton thing. I know there's someone there somewhere, but I can't move my head. So I can do that, and it fits over this to here. So it's really great. And of course, this is the cape that Mary made, which is just beautiful. You can see the arcs in the bat there. The bat curves. And then there is the body armor. Now, I didn't get the same stuff as they used in Batman Dead End, but very similar, because that stuff you had to dye, and I just, you know, dyeing is a disaster. I didn't want to go through that. I researched and researched and researched on Amazon, and I actually finally, after I was about ready to give up and go with long johns, found some body armor for athletic wear that had already the right color gray and matching bottoms that were the same gray, and this looks simple enough. I gotta tell you, this wasn't easy. It took several tries. I should have done it, tested it first on something else, but I didn't. I ended up doing 2 of them because I have 2 of these, but I found in the end that Mary, well, go back. Mary used freezer paper, which is wax backed, and we made a pattern, and she ironed it onto here, and I sprayed it on, and unfortunately it came up a little bit on the side, leaked under. So I tried to correct it by making a tape one, and that didn't really work that well. The bat kept getting bigger. I ended up making a styrene template and pushing it against this. Now this was stretched out over a piece of canvas to match how it would be stretched on my chest, and pushed it down, held it down with my hand, and using the fabric paint from Tulip, airbrushed it, dusted on very, very lightly, and I got this. And it came out really, really well. Here's the bottoms, which you won't see this because it will be under the leg part. This is very thick stuff, very stretchy and strong. That band, of course, will be hidden by the belt and also by the Batman's underwear or swimsuit, if you will. This is not a Speedo. Oh, God, New Year's Day, yes. Don't forget New Year's Day. You'll get to see me in a Speedo in the freezing cold water with sharks one more time. I think that's it. I mean, that's everything. Cape, boots, gauntlets, utility belt, cowl, body armor, bat on the chest, G-string, or whatever you want to call it. What's that? I won't try this on for you guys, but Mary might. This is Mary's costume, and you can tell part of it, yes, but let's see, I'll get it this way. You can see the leaves on it, the ivy leaves. She is doing poison ivy. And so she's been working on that. She's also working on a mermaid costume for our wonderful friend Emily. And I think that's it. I think that's a lot of Halloween. I think we're doing really good. She's got a ways to go still on her ivy costume, and I've got to make her the leaves for her eyebrows. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I have all my Batman costume except for the neck. So, thought I'd show that to you. So I'm working in Lightwave 11.5 here, and we're working on the first opening shot in Martian's Attacks SNG. And what I'm working on is, and this is all storyboarded, is the first thing you see, which is Mars, and you see it against the stars. And Allie did this amazing, beautiful background starfield for us. And I'm getting this slow pull away from Mars and a pan, which takes us eventually to Earth. And you'll notice that, of course, I'm in OpenGL. I'll render this in a second. But what you're seeing here is, in setup, the shot I'm working on. Okay, so, and I've got a flat in the back, and attached to that is, of course, her image. Now, I've panned way too far, so what I'm going to be doing is having the camera only pan that far and stop. And create a key. And this should work better. I'm just running the shot through in OpenGL. We got our slow pan. And then we're going to do a dissolve in here and do it to another angle, and we're going to show more space, and then we're going to go towards the Earth. Now you'll notice that the star field has nebulosity to it and a lot of colors and blues and greens, and I'll show you why that is when I render the shot. Really going for a very surreal look. There's been a lot of controversy about, boy, that rendered fast. A lot of controversy about the show and about where we're going, but a lot of this has been based on not having any knowledge of what's actually in the script. The script, I can't even tell you, can I? I mean, I really can't. It'll give away the whole thing. But this is a very dark, surreal movie. So I'm going to save off a test here. And we can enlarge this frame and take a look at it. So this is just a frame, just a JPEG, one pass, not a lot of work put into it, but you can see what a nice look this has with her background, and the Mars is very surreal. So we are actually now in a production officially. I have started the first opening shot. I'm going to be doing the shot with the Earth. I both built this Mars object, or as we call it, lightwave object model wireframe, and I also built one of the Earth, which is really, really beautiful. And again, everything's kind of overcolored, oversaturated, and kind of very surrealistic, which is what I'm going for, what we are going for. I'm going to show you here in Modeler, because I know a lot of you are not familiar with how this all works. I don't know why I have two modelers, but I do. Now here's Mars again, and it's in two layers. The one layer that is, of course, the planet with everything mapped on it, and it's a very high-resolution map of the real Mars. And you can see there's a polar cap down there, and the craters. It holds up pretty well on close-up, although we are in OpenGL right now. This is not rendered, but it looks really good. Then this other layer you're seeing here, this is our atmosphere layer, and that's got a gradient on it, so it has a certain amount of atmosphere to it, so that it's not just a mapped ball in space, which gives it a nicer look. These are the things we're doing on Martian's Attacks SNG, and you're going to see a lot more next week because we're going to get back to working on the ship and doing more CGI. I was upstairs, I was going through stuff, and I stumbled over all three of these submarines, and it got me thinking, what's up with this? And my friend Ben Glenn, who's up in San Bruno, about 3, maybe 4 years ago, somewhere in there, had me build these submarines for him. And being that he's a busy lawyer and got a very full life of his kids and everything else, never got down except one time to see how they worked. And in fact, he had me build a CV2, and he very nicely, during the period I was going through with Jilly's fight against cancer, donated the Seaview to help pay for the medical bills we had for that, which I greatly appreciate. But he said, these subs look easier to run. You know, I'm going to come back for them, and you're going to show me how they're going to work. And he's going to show. That's a whole dream was to play with these subs with his kids, which are now pretty well grown up. So I wrote to Glenn and said, Glenn, you know, I haven't heard from him for a while. I still have your subs. I bet the batteries are dead by now. And what do you want to do with these? I can ship them to you. You can come down. I don't have a pool anymore. And he wrote back and said, look, if you can just get them working again, tell me what they need, and do a video and show me how they function, and put the video with them and ship them up to the Bay Area so he can play with them in his pool. So that's where we're at with this. Now, they're all in good condition, and from what I can see, but they've been stored for 4 years. The first thing I want to do is check and see, you know, I'm pretty sure this opens magnetically. So it's been that long. This is a Dumas Akula. Actually, I should show you the sub. It's quite pretty. This is a simple submarine. It's called a dynamic diver, which means that you get going along in the water with this propeller. It gets a pretty good head of speed. It's pretty much the water's to about here, and with the slight deflection of these, it will go underwater and very easily stay level and flat. This is a very, very good entry-level submarine because it has no ballast system. It will always come back to the surface. I always loved it. I had when I sold it. I wish I hadn't, because this thing just stirs circles around everything at the pond. It's a great boat. I love it. So the top comes off like this. It's all vacuform model, that Dumas boats. If you guys are familiar with model companies, Dumas makes a lot of boats. This is they give you all of this. This is the watertight cylinder here, which is really just a plastic box that's sealed with silicone. We got a battery box here. It's got the battery in it, which connects to power this way. We got a bunch of weight in there and stuff to ballast it. And it's very simple. You got 2 servos that control the dive planes and the rudder down below, which makes it turn. It's all very effective, very well thought out. The guy that designed this simple beginner submarine really had a great idea. These are the radios, which are basic FM radios. 2.4 gigahertz does not work underwater, only AM and FM. And so we still have to use the old style type radios. Now, I'm not sure what frequency this is on. I'm not even sure there's even power in here after all this time. Seems to me that the battery's completely dead. So we won't know until we charge it. So we're going to charge that battery up here in a minute. Then we're going to look at this one here, which is a Roby Shark, I believe it's called. And again, it's a very simple, very high-end, actually, submarine. It is also static. It does not have a ballast system in it. You just get it going to a good speed, and you dive using the deflection of the dive planes. It's very efficient. It works very well. I'm going to remove the top. And see, now that I'm past, that's how you get to the screws inside. You go past these little seals here, which are held down. This is what keeps the water out. But when you remove these screws, it gives you the access to get inside, which are not going back in. I'll probably cut this out, Mary. I just don't want to lose the seals, you know. Okay, so now we're going to get this one. Submarines are a lot of work. The thing about the Dumas boat is that you basically just open the top up, charge the battery, plug the battery in, turn the radio on, throw it in the water and go. It's probably the only one on the market that's like that. This one's kind of like that, but requires a little more fuss and muss. That's how the top comes off. You can see the screws down there. This is what holds it on. There's a whole seal that goes around here that keeps the water from coming in. And likewise, these 2 screws on top fix that as well. Now this one I can see does have one of our Samba Labs radio was in it. So I know this is hooked to this. And there's juice in that radio. And that probably not, well, oh, we got a little momentary. Yeah, it's still working. Not enough for power to motor, but that's working. And the biplanes are working. We got reverse. So this just needs a charge, basically. Of course, also has to show Glenn how it functions. We're going to disconnect that. So, well, of course, we also have to check it in the water, make sure we have no leaks. That the seal doesn't need to be replaced, but it looks pretty good. It's a nice thing about these being stored as long as they have been, that their rubber seals and stuff will not rot. You can see the original color. I completely modified this boat. We do have to replace the connector on this because for some reason it's glitching. So this one's okay. That's really good news. I'm sure this one is too once we get the battery charged. I did notice some corrosion in here, and it could be that that's really all that's keeping this from working, because nickel metal hydrate batteries are known to keep working years later even if they haven't been charged. I'm going to try this again. And of course, the other thing I can do is take another battery I have. Gotta love these Tamiya connectors. And we're gonna go find another battery and hook it up to this of the same type and make sure the system's still working. Okay, so I've been over this one now. We've been taking little breaks here. The battery is coming back to life, it would appear. So far it's taken 36 milliamps, which is not a lot, but it's a NiCad. I'm going to charge this at 1.1 amps. Start. There it goes. Okay, so that's charging now. We're going to get this. I'm using one of mine for now. Should it be that this one's bad, this is a brand new one. I can open this up. It's just silicone together, which I'm hoping I don't have to do, and replace it with that battery. But by hooking this up, I found out that, oh, and just for good luck, I think this is working. Radio's on. I hear humming, and we have our up and down now, and our right and left. Now, the problem is that there was corrosion on the brass, and of course it didn't want to pass through the silicone seals, which came loose. I'll have to re-silicone these in, put more silicone on them. But we have, and we got our reverse. So everything's working there. You can see how nice that speed control is. It just turns so beautifully smooth. We're all set there. We just have to do some maintenance on it. So we're going to do the Nautilus next, and we'll come back for that. I'm going to make sure I get everything going so we don't waste tape and battery. I'm still at it here. I've checked this. Everything's working on it, as you saw, and I put in the seals back in and put some silicone caulking material. It's a Devcon we use, a Marine brand that's very, very good, and push the seals back in. Those will seal up, and then tomorrow what I can do is I can take this tube here, blow some air pressure in there and seal it back up. And then what I do, once this is under pressure, I take, as I have done with this, some soapy water, and I put it over all the areas, connectors, seals, where the cylinders go together with the O-rings, to check it for leaks. Now, I blew this up a while ago. It inflated the bladder inside, so we're going to see. Oh yeah, this thing is, you can hear it hiss. So I'm going to blow it back up, put the stopper in it, I did that a while ago, and now I'm going to take some soapy water on a brush and check these seals. See if they're leaking. And these are Big Dave Welch's seals, and I tell you, these things have been sitting for 3 years. I did put some silicone oil on them to make sure everything's okay, but we have no leaks here at all. I mean, just, I don't even need to check it. There's just nothing on this model is leaking. And this is also Dave Welch's cylinder that he built for this model, a custom cylinder for the Scott Brodeen 31 inch. And we have no leaks, none whatsoever. I'm going to turn the propeller here so that we move the shaft. I don't see any problems here at all. Now we're going to hook up a radio to it. Turn this radio on. And this is how we get in there. A rubber band holds the whole thing down, and I don't have that in right now. Okay, this is where our battery's going to go. We're going to hook up the battery, making sure we're at neutral on the motor. We're going to hook up our battery and see if all systems are go. I hear all kinds of noise, which tells me that we are indeed working. Just beautiful. Now what I need to do is, and that's the first time this has been activated in almost 4 years. This is how the battery goes in. It just squeezes down in there. Our light battery will go in there as well. But I've got to deal with that and charge it. This is a new battery for this model that's in here. Because lithium batteries don't like to sit around and not be used for that long a time. So we're going to close that up like that. That seals it in permanently. That pushes down in there. We're going to put the rubber band over here that holds all this down. These cylinders that Dave Welch makes, I have so many of them in my submarines, and they are just bulletproof. I've never had one fail on me or leak or do anything bad. They're really quite good. Now, we don't have a lot of rudder with this, but one thing that's great is the propeller is blowing right on the rudder itself, so you get a good deflection this way. Now, the way we pitch is, you see me moving this up and down here, and you can see the prop, and it pitches up and down as this goes back and forth. Now, I can hold this up to the camera so Mary can kind of zoom in there, and you'll be able to see that action. It works really good. It's just a simple little teeter-totter in there, and the servo pulls on the teeter-totter, which pushes up on a bar in here and wedges the prop so that it actually goes back and forth. There's a little vibration when you reach a peak point with it, but other than that, you don't need much to make it dive. You already have the ballast system to do that for you. This is simply to affect pitch on the sub, so that you can go over things up and down, not just do this and this, but you can actually, like if you're coming up something like that and you're underwater, you can go over it and around it. Pitch comes in real handy for that. I know some people run their subs just with ballast alone, which works, but I prefer to have pitch. And since these very small little dive planes on the actual model are not very effective, and they are right here, these paddles, and very difficult to hook up, especially on a model this size. Having the actual prop pitch itself is very effective, and you don't destroy the scale lines of the sub. I am very pleased. Oh, one thing we haven't checked, and that is the bladder system itself, which I can show you how that works, because I know a lot of you are probably pretty curious about that. How how you get it up and down your submarine. Let's see. Okay, I had to get air out of the bladder and let it have neutral pressure inside. Okay, so it turns out it's this little cam in here, and you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a little cam in there that rotates, and because this radio doesn't have any ATV capability, I can't set the sensitivity of the stick. I had to take the cylinder out to repair the little problem with the cam there. And what it was is that the servo had shifted. This is going on 4 years old. So I fixed that, and now when I operate, you can see the cam right there moving with the servo. When it goes this way, it inflates the pump, and I can push all the way over, and it inflates that turns the pump on, which inflates the bladder. You can see the bladder is fully inflated. Now, this pushes all the water out of this cylinder. This cylinder is not connected to these cylinders, at least with the air. This is open to sea. Now, I can let the air back out. The vacuum will pull it in little bits if I want, very slowly. And I can dive, or hover, or completely deflate it. And then if I want to come back up, I'm on the bottom now. Let's say I just want to come up a little bit and hover above the bottom. I'll put a little bit of air in it like that. I want to come up a little higher, about halfway between the bottom and the surface. So I'll pump it up about that far. Now I want to come all the way to the surface. And likewise, diving. I can do little bits. Little very slow bits. And then completely go to the bottom. You'll see what happens when I don't do it in degrees. Now pump it up all the way at the surface. We're going to do a crash dive. And see, there's a vacuum created inside those three compartments. This one, and this one. There's a tube for all the cables that goes between these two compartments to keep them all connected, to be able to travel and keep the battery power and the receiver power going back to the servos, the motors, the speed control, but allowing this to flood with water without affecting the other compartments, and that's our ballast compartment. This is called RCABS. So I have the cylinder placed back inside here, and it can't go forward or back. There's a bulkhead there and a bulkhead there. It fits perfectly between. We've got a rubber band, yes, a rubber band. How high tech, which holds it in, like so. Now you can see these holes are straight up because, and the bladder's there, and you know how that works. We fill it up, pushes the water out, and go that way, and we deflate it. Okay, now these right here are our connections. This is just using a piece of fuel tubing here for our prop. Okay, now we have these here. I see this one came loose. These are control horns, which control our pitch and our yaw, or our rudder. These are just little wheel collars, which fit very easily, except when they don't. There we go. Now I'm going to check to make sure my pitch is neutral, which it appears to be, and I'm going to tighten this as soon as I get there. Okay. And now we have our up and down. You can see how the little arm there is causing this. When I go this way, it pitches the prop down. When I go this way, it pitches it up. You don't need much to make it work. Okay, now we're going to hook up and there's only these two hookups, which is really nice. Well, three, really. We're going to hook up our rudder. We're going to make sure that we're at neutral on the radio. And we're going to make sure that our rudder itself is neutral, which it just is at that location. I'm going to tighten that. Somebody around here is close to my frequency. Too bad we can't use 2.4 on these. Now we should have our rudder. Very, very nice. Very smooth. Good operation. So we got dive. We got surface. We got dive. We got up. We got down. We got right. We got left. And we have motor and reverse. So we are all set to go. That's how we do that. Come on, baby, let's go on a date tonight. I'll show you my submarine. No, I'm just kidding. That will have to be cut out. We went from a big mess of stuff on the table to organization, because every single one of these subs is now ready to test in the water. That is, as soon as we get our fish tank. Now we are looking for a 60-gallon tank, which is about this big by about that tall, and we're going to set it up. Hopefully it'll come with a stand, and we've been looking at used ones, and we'll be able to set it up so you can actually see the sub on the surface and then see it under the water, although both of these won't be able to do that because they have to be going forward to be able to go under the water. We'll still be able to hold them under the water, make sure everything's working right under the water, and that we don't have any leaks or problems. And this one you'll actually be able to see dive and then come back up, and you'll be able to see with the lights on and everything. So that's going to be really cool. So we're that far now. The next stop with this project is going to be to test them in the water, and then of course after that we got to get them shipped out to Glenn. And what I'm doing is shooting a video for Glenn, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, that will show him blow by blow what he has to do to get the batteries charged, get them in the model, get them turned on and sealed down, and how to drive them once they're in the water. So that video is going to be just for him, but it will be available for you guys to see too on our channel, because it will be uploaded there for him. So that's going to be really, really neat to do. Looking forward to it. So more fun with this as soon as we get the fishing tank. Fish tank. That's what it is. What another fantastic week at SNG. I want to thank you all for joining us. Next week we're going to do more of the same, and we're going to get those submarines in our new fish tank that we're going to get soon, I hope, because we're going to be able to shoot video right through underwater, and you can see them in operation and how they all work. So we'll finish the testing on those. Going to work more on the Batman costume, and I'm going to finish it. And most importantly, we're going to be working on Martian's Attack SNG. Everything from CGI to working on the puppet to the ship, and maybe even getting some actual live action finally started being shooting. So be sure to join us next week for more fun, and don't forget to subscribe. We really appreciate all our subscribers. Have a great week.